we are going to share the various mistakes in thinking people engage in so that we can notice them when we are subject to them ourselves. By reading them, remembering them, and sharing them with other people, we de radicalize ourselves and help others become. That is our. Right. Septic is going to help us by reading out this.
First up, we have confirmation bias, also known as the most egregious form of logical fallacy. It's true because I believe it. The tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms one's preconceptions. That's the naughty word there. Believing your rhetoric is not racist because a few of the people you are racist against agree with you. That would be a example of confirmation bias. Attribution error. If they did it, they caused it. Where we get a lot of tribalism in our country, for example, the tendency to overemphasize personal characteristics and ignore situational factors. Saying someone is lazy because they are poor, ignoring systemic issues or any other factor under the sun. Substitution error. Accepting an answer to another question. When faced with a difficult question, people often substitute it with a simpler one and answer that instead, saying an ideology has a mandate because a candidate won an election. Now, that's relevant today. False equivalence. This is the other naughty one. This is the big one. Two things seem the same but aren't. A equals B, B equals C, but sometimes A does not equal C. When two things are compared as if they are equal, even though they aren't, saying that there are two sides to climate change. Martin Bailey, lesser known logical fallacy, invisibility going from indefensible to agreeable. A debate tactic where someone defends a difficult to defend position but retreats to a different, easy to defend idea when challenged. Someone who does this often is Destiny. It's a very normal debate tactic, saying get rid of the Department of Education, and they then saying education needs reform. Asked. Zero sum thinking. Oh, this is the ooh, granddaddy of them all. If they win, I lose. The belief that one's gain must come at another's loss. Thus, no mutual benefit is possible. This kind of thing shuts down all normal discourse in our life. Echo chamber upon echo chamber upon echo chamber. Think that if minimum wage goes up, my above minimum wage goes down in value. Black and white thinking. Again, this ties back to the previous one because nobody's able to operate in the grays. But life is in the grays, and a lot of times it's all or nothing. A cognitive error where someone sees situations in only two categories, good or bad, ignoring any middle ground or spectrum of possibilities or the capacity to discuss those gray areas. My political leader must not be a criminal because I like what he stands for. Gish Gallop. Oh, this is another debate tactic common among, again, throwback to Destiny. He's one of the most popular debaters on the platform at the moment, making many arguments to run away, a debate tactic where one overwhelms an opponent with a rapid series of many arguments without regard for their accuracy or strength, making it difficult to refute each one. Nobody wants to engage point for point. You can, in a civil discussion, saying climate change is good, and if it isn't, then it isn't man made, and if it is man made, we can't do anything about it. Correlation and causation, right back to mathematics. So it's basic foundation of everything that is. One follow the other, so one cause the other. Assuming that because you can come up with a story about how one thing causes the other, it does. Arguing not being married is why people are poor, rather than poor people don't get married. Correlation versus causation.
Also, causation is a story, per David Hume, who had us look at things instead of just take for granted what the church said. So, from the origins of empiricism, understand that causation is
Okay. Argument from incredulity. I can't imagine it, so it can't be true. I feel like in this current election cycle that a lot of people thought that some things could not be true. So then a lot of people were making this kind of argument, concluding something must be false because it's difficult to understand or believe. How could anyone vote for this racist, misogynist, terrible human being, 34 felonies? We don't know. Saying we can't have universal health care because how would that work? It's an argument from incredulity. Sunk costs. I've invested too much to quit now. It's the gambler's gambit, right? You've invested too much. You can't walk away. Continuing a behavior due to previous invested resources, time, money, effort, even if it's not the best choice. It ties back to your own personal confirmation bias. It kind of, the feedback loop. They are connected here. Continue to buy into the QAnon conspiracy, even when what QAnon says is proven wrong. Personal attacks. Well, this is a big one. I have a lot of personal experience with this one. Attacking the person, not the argument. Attacking an opponent's character or traits instead of engaging with their argument. Making fun of their mustache. Making fun of their hair. And it happens all the time. For example, how dumb you are that you need examples. A false dichotomy. It's either this or that. No other options. Yes, well, a lot of people don't understand that there are a lot of factors that go into many things. Presenting options in one small domain as the only possibilities when more domains exist. Either the borders are perfectly closed or we don't have a real nation. Learned helplessness. Nothing I do makes a difference. It never has. A mental state where repeated failures lead to the belief that one cannot change their situation. Not voting because they have all the power. Moving the goalposts, changing the criteria as soon as they are met. But there's a caveat because sometimes you are inaccurate and then the conversation just does move, which is okay. That is a continuation of the conversation.
Right.
Demanding more or different evidence after initial criteria have been met, making it impossible to satisfy the new demands. Saying that you think your ideas are better for the economy and then saying your ideas are more fair when shown they are bad for the economy. Hasty generalization, assuming what's true for a few is true for all. It also not taking into account the vast amount of information that is out there that you may not know, which is important in any discussion. Drawing a conclusion about an entire group based on a small or unrepresentative example, concluding that because some immigrants commit crimes, immigrants are criminals, which is, of course, not true.
I don't like that.
Appeal to unjustifiable authority. Someone in power said it, so it must be true. Yeah, that is a terrible example. No one should be doing this ever. Appeal to authorities is a fallacy when those who use it do not provide any justification to support their argument. Leaving a dragon researcher you heard on Joe Rogan, even though the researcher is a chiropractor. Oh, I heard Joe Rogan was a dragon believer. Gambler's fallacy.
From a chiropractor.
Oh yeah. Well, as a caveat, he's not actually a dragon believer. Gambler's fallacy. Past outcomes affect future probability. The gambler fallacy is a cognitive bias that occurs when someone believes that the probability of an event changes after a series of outcomes. Believing that if we just keep trying the same risky policy, eventually it will balance out the failures. Strawman. This is a big one. Big one. We were discussing it earlier. Everything was a straw man earlier. Attacking an exaggerated or misrepresented version of an argument. When you just make something up.
When you literally say the entire argument we had was just about how it's straw mans. You have straw man the entire argument.
Yes, there
Perfect example.
there are
You
when
presented it while reading it. Perfect.
when you are discussing things like flat Earth or vaccine, chlorine in the bloodstream, when it's not an actual representation of anything that someone else in the argument actually has, that would be straw manning. Misrepresenting an opponent's argument. That's exactly what that is. Nobody thinks the Earth is flat. Nobody thinks it's 6,000 years old. No one thinks that injecting bleach into your blood is going to have any kind of efficacy. Often by exaggerating or simplifying it. Simplifying it is the big takeaway there too. Then attacking the misrepresentation rather than the actual argument. Yes, lots of straw mans be happening. Saying, so you think we should enslave doctors when someone says we should have free universal health? Red herring, often confused with the straw man, it's distracting with an irrelevant point, which is very close to a straw man. That's basically the same thing. Introducing an irrelevant topic to divert attention away from the original issue, often to avoid addressing a challenging question or point. When told about the genocide in Gaza, saying Muslims are against gays. That would be, well, yeah, an irrelevant point to that topic.
And I think you were a little confused on straw man versus red herring. They're kind of completely different in the fact that a straw man is building up your opponent's argument and then tearing it down. A red herring is bringing up something completely different.
Straw man is introducing an argument that your opponent doesn't have. But I'm saying that people use straw mans as a distraction from the actual issue. So that's why I'm saying
I guess it's
in a Venn diagram, I like Kamala Harris, love Venn diagrams, and there is a lot of overlap between the straw man and the red herring here.
You can use a straw man as a red herring, right?
Exactly, and it happens most of the time. Straw men
when you're
are
straw
used as red
manning, what you're doing is you're trying to distract from. Well, first off, often what will happen is people just are failing to steel man. So you can easily accidentally transition to a new conversation or try and derail the thread of thought, which is the attempt of a red herring. But do it on accident because you simply didn't do your best to make the best argument for the person. Instead, you cued into some little piece that you can try to exaggerate over, or fundamentally misunderstood it without trying to get at what the other.
And if you are discussing in good faith, then it should be an accidental thing and not be an actual red herring. If you create a straw man but you are discussing in good faith, then what you've done is an accident, and that's fine.
Yeah, we can read this one too. This is a brand new one that we I think just finished the slide on.
This looks like Harry Potter. Is this a spell?
Yes.
Reductio ad absurdum. Following the logic to extreme ends. Reducto ad absurdum is a logical and philosophical argument technique that attempts to prove a claim by showing that the opposite of the claim would lead to an absurd or contradictory conclusion. All right, let's see the example here. The example is suggesting that implementing social distancing will eventually lead to a prison planet. Yeah, that those things do not add to each other. That is accurate. Okay, that is an absurd conclusion. Genetic fallacy. Genes are a fallacy now. Okay. Dismissing an idea based on its origins rather than its content. Yeah, that's a good one. Fair. Genetic fallacy? Is it supposed to be the?
That's a typo. We can fix that. Don't worry about
Yep, this is our first time through these.
Yeah. You get the brand new ones.
The genetic fallacy is a logical fallacy that occurs when the validity of an idea is based on its origins or history rather than its actual merits. You're not going to wear an engagement ring, are you? Don't you know it started for sexist reasons? Ah, we just had a holiday based on it too, Thanksgiving. Tradition fallacy. Is this an also? Is this tying? Do we Venn diagram this one with the last one?
I guess so.
Arguing that something is right solely because it has been accepted or practiced for a long time. An appeal to tradition fallacy assumes that the old way of thinking was correct when it was introduced, and that it's still correct today, rejecting new math because we've always taught it this way. I'm a big proponent of Common Core because I think we've been teaching math wrong for the past 3 decades. Anchoring and adjustment. Relying too heavily on the first piece of information. A cognitive bias where an initial piece of information serves as a reference point for its subsequent decisions. Believing a pair of shoes at Neiman Marcus is a good deal at $100 because it was originally priced at $200, even if it's for sale at $50 at Target. Don't trust those Black Friday deals.
Yeah, the Black Friday deals are a perfect example.
They're a sham.
They'll increase
was
the
close.
prices before Black Friday so that they're lower.
Ooh. Thank you
Yep.
for reading, Septic.
Very helpful. All right. So we have concluded. Oh, rhetoric is misspelled, by the way. Yeah, we should find rhetoric. Also, we
Which
should.
was an
find
H,
it.
right?
R-H.
Yep, there it is.
O-R-I.
Oh no! H at the
Alright.
end. I've never seen that.
Retroic. Hey, you said it without noticing it. So.
Well, that is how we read, because our brains interpret not the actual letters.
I'm just making excuses for it having been wrong for the past 10
Right.
times we've read it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Taylor Ray,
Good
do you have a mic?
Say hi, Taylor.
Say something.
Hello.
Oh, perfect.
Hello, I am 12 years old.
It's good of the children to choose the bodies that tell us. All right. So,
That was
The
our
next-
list.
yes, sir. Now the next portion of talk to people, and the way we talk to people. Listen to the statement. Think something is a good idea or a bad idea, and when it is a good idea or bad idea, we try and unpack the logic underlying what they're saying, get at what they're really trying. Show the errors in thinking, because all of us have errors of thinking. Take those errors in thinking and improve the arguments that they're making, trying to get to something that's like what they're getting at the best we can. Sometimes it's not easy, but often we can improve things, and then we draw some conclusion at the end. The idea being that even if we disagree with your general argument, that's okay. As long as we can help you make a better, more rational argument, we believe you're coming. Radicalize. Don't beat them over the head with how wrong they are. Help them realize how they can be right. Don't understand.
As a quick aside before we go on, I do want to say I'm a pretty big movie buff. I have seen iRobot. I've seen so many movies. I'm
Good, that's
really
called a
big into movies.
sequitur.
But just Mirko was under the assumption that I hadn't seen a lot of movies, but I've seen a lot.
That was an hour ago, Septic.
It's important. It's
So
important
I
to put a pin
remember
in those
I'm
things
an elephant.
and
I'm an
bring it
elephant,
back.
and you
By the way,
should eat
Markov,
me
I have
after
seen a lot of
whales.
movies.
Nice.
An elephant, and you should eat me after whales.
Get it? It's a reference to the previous conversation.
Mhm.
Yes, throwback.
So that's good. So, does anyone have something they think is a good idea or bad? Doesn't matter what politics is. Because we're going to not talk about anything. We're going to unpack the under.
We might have somebody in chat, but we'll see.
Let's see.
They're
Iconic
cooking.
Dreams. This will be a conversational. Is that okay? Yeah, controversial. Yeah, for sure. You can't type controversial, and that's not controversial amongst us because I'm dyslexic. So go for it, Iconic Dream. And if you're wrong,
You
we'll
just
just
forgot an R.
whatever, man.
Also,
It's
Ionic
just a
Dreams,
keyboard.
Not iconic.
He understood what you're saying.
Oh, it's ionic. Is it not iconic?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I'm
Dyslexia is happening
dyslexic.
all over the place.
I'm dyslexic. But I'm also tenured, so guess they didn't catch.
I don't even know if we should touch that one.
Circumcised baby.
Okay.
I say no.
Yeah, I mean that's a fun thought experiment. First off, let's address the question. Should a woman be able to say my body, my choice after the baby is born? No, because the baby isn't her body. Right? So that's not a defense.
Are you answering the question
Mhm.
or asking the question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to unpack the good idea, bad idea section of it and understand the underlying. And
It
if we
sounds to me like you're trying to ask the question and give everyone a push towards the answer that you want them to have.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
there is
not
that one
necessarily.
right answer I care so passionately about. It's not like it's
Mhm.
obvious and was used as a distraction from the underlying other argument. So I was dismissing it out of hand. Good catch.
Mhm.
Well, I think he was I think he was agreeing with my conclusion of no, and then he was providing his foundation for why he agrees that it's no.
So,
Hi, Septic.
premise
Nice to
is
see you.
wrong.
I just joined, so I'm just
yeah,
figuring out
so
where
what
we
do
are.
you say, Andy, about the premise being wrong?
Because it says, does she have the right to say my body? It's not her body.
Yeah, it's not.
I think,
will
So
always be my body.
the whole premise is wrong.
well,
It
the-
will-
Wait.
It would be my
Your-
baby,
your
my
baby?
choice. Yeah, it'd be my baby, my choice.
right.
Yes,
One
we should
the
get
purpose
confused.
the purpose of posing it
Yeah,
as
so-
such the purpose of posing it as such is an attempt to say that abortion itself is some attempt at dismissing the value of a baby.
No.
That is the point of the reason to say it this way. And it's failing to make a distinction between a woman's body, who is a life raft, who is not required to give it to any living being, and whether or not a fetus is a full person. Whether or not a fetus is a full person does not matter as to whether or not a woman's body must be given to that person or non-person.
Exactly.
I think
But
Moose
she
crashed.
just dropped,
Wait,
I think.
Markov left?
Oh,
She
Murkov
might have
crashed. Guys, the first thing we're going to do with our money is buy Murkov a damn on this.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I don't know. I think you do sign an implicit contract when you engage in things that could create a life. It's a little different than like just
An
waiting.
implicit
like-
contract?
What?
Where's your contract,
What?
bro?
Oh, bro.
Well, it's like I've heard the counter argument
agree
is
with
like
that.
I've heard the counter argument is like if
Yeah,
you wake up
you signed it?
wake up and no, I'm saying if you wake up
And
and
who wrote
you're-
that contract implicitly in your head?
When you
Yeah,
put
who
your
Was it-
penis,
Was
unprotected
it the
Yeah.
people who
Female
were
vagina,
assuming
and you squirt
the
sperms into that
premise
vagina,
that you
you've
were making?
implicitly
because-
contracted that it is possible to
Or
make a
or
Yeah.
or you were
That's
told that
ridiculous.
by somebody who assumed the
That is-
premise. Wait, or you were told
biology.
right, or you were
No,
told
that's
that by
ridiculous.
somebody who assumed the premise. And if you assume the premise, then
what?
yes, of course.
Is this
Exactly.
Bizarro land? right
No,
here?
assuming
Well,
a
no,
premise
no,
is where
it
you
has the
assume that you're
possibility of
right, and then
resulting
you
in
give
life.
examples about
Okay,
how
well,
you're
hey,
right.
hey.
For example,
Exactly.
we are allowed to eat our dogs when they die. When you buy a dog, there's an implicit contract that we can eat them when they die. That implicit contract only exists if you assume the premise that you should eat them when they die. You have done the same thing with abortion. You've assumed the premise.
Well,
that-
I'm
Well,
vegan,
that's a false
so I
equivalency.
feel like that premise doesn't work on me.
Oh, it doesn't
because
work on
guys
you
all eat-
because
for-
you
for
don't agree.
non-vegans,
And
if
if
you
you-
don't eat chicken, you eat chickens and
my
you
God.
eat
And yet-
turkeys and you
and
eat
yet-
other birds,
And
but
yet
seagulls.
you have assumed your consequence. You have assumed that it's okay to not to say, well, we're not supposed to eat meat, but it is okay to say, well, there's an implicit contract that you ate a child. You did. You assumed your consequence. You assumed the outcome and then you described it. That's what you did. So
important
Look.
than the animals that are needed.
Hold on. By
That doesn't
rejecting the
make any
contract,
sense.
you're assuming that the contract is
There is no
not
contract.
There
important.
is no contract. The contract that
Yes,
you're
you're
talking
assuming
about.
there is no
So
contract.
the contract
There
that
you
you're
go. No,
working
there is
from
no
is
contract.
the
Yes, you're
implicit.
assuming that. Yes, you're
there
assuming
is.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
You're assuming there is no contract.
That's correct. That's correct. Do you know why? Because you
No,
can't
I know
point to the
why- I know why it's
contract.
correct.
Where is it?
Yeah, I know.
There
You're
is no
assuming,
such
you're
thing.
assuming, you're
I don't
assuming
have
it
to
does not
assume
exist.
it because I
Sex is the
can't
contract.
see it in the
Sex
same way.
is
Yes,
the
yes,
contract.
yes. And,
Okay,
and you,
so
and you
once
say
again-
you say because I
Hold
cannot
on,
see, therefore it
one
doesn't
person
exist.
at a time. Snoosh, obviously, sex is not a contract because there's
Sex
no.
is 100% a contract.
Oh my
Fred.
god!
Oh my god.
Oh my god! Are
100%
contracts
contract.
100% sex? Because I think it's a
No.
one-for-one correspondence.
You can't-
Now forget it.
Sex is a
Snoosh was right. They were both the same thing.
Sex is a contract.
It
What a
is.
goofy,
Thank
goofy
you,
On
set of
Septic.
Tinder, I
statements.
forgot to sign the contract.
No,
Sex
yeah, it is a contract.
Yes.
On whom?
Yeah,
on
Between
the, on the
two
people
people
who
engaged
are
in sex.
people involved.
According to whom?
The two people involved.
So if the two
You-
people
you know what
wait,
can-
no,
you know what
Snoosh,
can
you're
happen.
talking over me instead of thinking clearly. So the two people involved say that it's a contract.
Well, the government
They-
says it's
No,
a contract too. Because
Not you,
Yes.
Septic.
Yes,
if the
they
two
do.
people
Yes,
involved,
the government
She's
does
saying the
say
two
it's a
people
contract.
if the
involved.
two
If I'm
people
gonna have
involved, hey
unprotected
Snoosh,
sex with a
Snoosh,
man,
Snoosh, you're
I would
leaving.
ho-
Are you leaving the argument that it was the two people involved that made it a contract?
Yes.
Great. So it's not the two people involved that made it a contract. It's now the government that now says sex is a
No.
contract.
No.
Okay,
No,
which
no,
one
it
is
is.
it?
The two people. Both.
Oh,
It's
okay,
both.
let's start with two people
It can be
involved
more than
making it a
one.
contract. What if they decide, actually, we're going to agree to something different?
Society inputs contracts upon the people
No,
who
no.
live in
What
that
if they make it an
society.
explicit contract? We're going to have sex, and if you get pregnant, you have an abortion. That's a new explicit contract that they can sign to change the
That's-
implicit contract, is it not?
That's not what it definitely is, but the government has mandated
Oh, the government
that
said that
is
you
not-
can't
Yes.
have an abortion.
So, no.
Oh.
The government didn't say you
Apparently
can't have an
the
abortion
the
either.
American government
So
did.
not
I'm in
only did the
Canada,
government
so
not
I'm-
say you can't have an abortion, but also they decided to have an abortion. Therefore, neither the government nor they have set up a contract that says if you get pregnant, you must have the baby.
there wouldn't
No,
be
So neither of your statements about it being a contract hold.
Well,
okay,
hold on,
very
hold
good.
on,
Just
hold
like
on,
you talk.
hold
There
on.
wouldn't
Let
be
me-
a
No,
let me- let me-
stipulation.
let me
There
tackle
wouldn't
the
be a
point.
need
Let me
for
tackle
the
the point. Let me
abortion.
tackle
Calm down,
There wouldn't
Snooze.
be a need for the
Snooze,
abortion in the
conversation.
first place.
No one
if
asked about
two
needs for
people
abortion.
didn't
Snooze,
enter
no
into
one
a
asked
mutually
about
binding
needs for
abortion.
agreement to have unprotected sex.
Yeah, they
Snooze, let me-
entered
let me-
into a
let me-
mutually agreed upon agreement to have unprotected sex, and if someone gets pregnant, have an abortion. That's an agreement. That's a contract between two people. And you can come up with any contract you want. You can believe your contract because you were raised in a church that taught you to value a fetus as though it's a full person and not value a woman because she has to be breeding cattle. That could be what you do. That's your choice to believe that. On the other hand, someone else can believe something different. And the two engaging in the sexual activity can choose to believe something else instead of taking for granted what you believe they ought to think about the situation, because different people can come to different conclusions and live their lives in their own ways without you being right or having a right over their body.
Dr.
Just
Sayers,
because you're eloquent doesn't make you smart.
Dr. Sayers, hold on.
That's a-
Oh,
Oh, she got you on that
So
one.
when you engage in sex, you are signing a contract.
This is false. If you engage in sex, you're very rarely signing a contract. In fact, what you're doing is having sex. Now, not all agreements amongst people who are consenting are contractual. However, even if they were engaged in some contractual behavior, that contractual behavior would be something they could negotiate ahead of time whether or not they wanted to take the implicit contract that you're saying exists. Now, we are going to, once everyone has calmed down, Septic will be able to speak, but right now, there's a lot of yelling. So, Septic,
All
please.
right,
Because you're-
all right.
Oh
So
my
what I was
God.
saying
You're
is that when you
talking to people.
Oh, yeah. So The reason the room is empty here is because Mirko's computer crashed some time ago. But the reason that Septic really doesn't need a response is because I've clearly addressed each of the points that he's presented and that you've presented. And it's very clear that you're not going to attend to the points themselves being addressed. Instead, you're going to be dismissive of it because of your emotional presupposition of your argument. Now, what we're going to do is go to another room called Teach Progress, everybody. Now, what we don't need, Mirko, is the one person that was yelling at me in the other room. She doesn't need it. So, and when she comes in, she needs to go because she would not stop yelling over me and then accusing me of talking over her. However, I did mute her, so that was helpful.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You know,
I cannot control the room if I'm not
I think
there.
it's very reasonable to talk about animals and ask whether or not their suffering is worth our consideration and to what degree. Like, these are all very reasonable.
Yeah.
But you're right, Andy. If somebody is being hyperbolic about their argument, they probably haven't found a way to find a middle ground. And they have been radicalized. They're really the people that we need to reach out to them.
Oh,
It didn't seem like Snoosh was listening to a thing you were
She
trying
didn't.
to say.
She didn't. What she said was, "If you're just because you're eloquent doesn't mean you're intelligent." Now, I challenge anyone to question the second part either. I don't want to be arrogant here, but obviously, I'm really dumb.
okay.
Well,
Chris was
she-
actually sorry. He's new to the room, and
Hey, Chris.
I was just gonna explain to him
Hi.
What we're
what
trying
we're
to do here.
doing.
Hi.
Yeah, we're teaching mistakes in thinking, and then also thinking, going over some topics where there are often mistakes in thinking of different fallacies like confirmation bias.
I'll just scroll through a couple of them. Zero-sum thinking, black and white thinking, ish galloping, that kind of thing. So you'll see how the room goes.
Volume.
Yeah, after a while.
Do
No,
they have
volume
an
doesn't
ethical
make it
right to
right.
say "my body, my choice"? And the answer is yes, of course. Everyone has an ethical right to say any damn fool thing that they want, no matter how stupid it is.
Exactly.
To
Do they have an
sexually
ethical right to
mutilate a
force you
baby
just
without
to
consent of the baby.
speak in their
It's not.
terms?
It's.
Well,
Oh God.
no. I think Ionic Dreams is bringing up a point that a lot of people, and that is that there is unwanted bodily change when you circumcise a boy. Right?
Yes.
So that's not a crazy argument any more than it's a crazy argument to say that you're harming something that feels pain when you kill an animal for food. Both of those are accurate arguments. And the question is, what are your ethics that you would allow or disallow these things? But neither of them are necessarily fallacious. It's just a matter of where your ethics lie. And that is, if your ethics are clear and your thinking is clear, you can come to different conclusions.
I'll let you know.
You can have strong ethics and come to the
I'll
conclusion
just
that
say now.
circumcision is okay or that circumcision is wrong, that eating animals is okay or that eating animals is wrong. As long as you have thought through things and you're not subject to the various errors in thinking that we talk about, then you can honestly come to these conclusions. I think it's pretty clear that harming people is a bad idea. The question then becomes, what's a person? And I think a baby is a person. And I'm pretty sure that whales and dolphins are people. But I don't
they
think
harming
chickens are
them, though?
people. That's where my line is. But that's because I ascribe personhood to dolphins. But
Really? Why?
oh,
Well,
because
the Native Americans hunted animals, and
Native
they-
Americans were also people. Therefore, wait, what?
but they hunted animals and ate meat.
Yeah,
What does
and
that have to do
Well,
with-
yes.
Yes,
So
yes,
does
yes,
Sans.
so-
different
So-
communities,
yeah.
different
Okay.
communities have different beliefs
Yeah.
about what is ethical. Different groups of people get sidetracked by mistakes in thinking. So they end up acting against their own ethical beliefs. That's what we're trying to fight here. If you have the ethical belief that, let's say, all animals are people, and because they suffer pain, which is a fact, they therefore shouldn't suffer pain, so you shouldn't eat them, that's not irrational, that's not unethical. However, if you've been radicalized into thinking that other people can't exist in the world that think differently than you, it's almost certainly based on one of these mistakes.
Indeed.
Chris?
Yeah, I think we are overcomplicating the things. As a human, I take everything from nature.
Yeah, that's called the
Before the
naturalistic
civilization-
fallacy. David Hume, in addressing the naturalistic fallacy, argued, and
Yeah,
accurately
yeah.
so, that when you say that it is natural, you must be arguing one of three things. One,
No,
it
let
is
me
something
finish.
that happens
no.
without human intervention,
No, I'm not saying that
which
thing.
that would
Let me
make it
finish.
natural. Or
No.
you could
no.
argue
Let me
that it is
finish.
that which is average or normal. It's something that usually happens. And that would be another kind of natural. Or arguing that's not supernatural. That is to say, it isn't something a god did to intervene in reality. In which case, all things humans do are natural. So, is it natural to get circumcised? In all three of those manners, it is natural to get circumcised in any way that you would care about, just like wear an earring, or
I
be
was gonna make
gay,
that
or
very
eat
point, yeah.
meat, or eat vegetables, or any other thing you want to say. So, appeals to nature fall flat on their face as any basis for morals, ethics, any of that.
I'm not talking about not that nature. Earth. I'm just talking about. We take everything, and we have to give something back, right?
No, not right.
Until the
This is
civilization-
false. We do
Until the
not.
civil. Sorry, what?
No, we do not. If we would like to be sustainable to ourselves, we should be in balance with nature. But no, we don't have to do that. In fact, we very often do not.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yep.
understood. Giving back is not only to building again a forest. Building a house is also a giving back to a civilization or something in a fact. We just
Yeah,
take the
but if
energy
we
from-
take
yeah,
if we
just with-
take the aluminum out of the soil and we make a
Mhm.
can out of it, and then we throw the can back in the dirt, we have taken
still
poison out of the soil and we put it back in the soil. That's giving
Yeah,
back, but it's a
we-
bad thing. We should sequester the
No,
aluminum.
it's not bad. It's not a bad. It's
No,
just
aluminum's a
perception of
poison. It
us.
kills crops and it kills people. Yeah, it's bad.
Isn't poison relative though?
Oh yeah, it's toxic.
I'm
Toxic to
in the
humans.
grand scheme
Toxic
of
to humans
time.
and plants.
In the grand scheme of time, it doesn't matter for Earth.
Yeah, because as Dr.
It's-
Manhattan said, living humans, dead humans, they're the same number of atoms to me. I
Yeah.
suppose nothing really matters, anyone can see.
Yeah. As we
There
are
you
in
go.
civilization, we are trying to not hurt other human
Who
beings.
thought
We are
that
just
song?
trying to
Hands up.
figure out a
Mhm.
way to live together. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
There's a good question. How can we find a way to live together even though everyone ought to have their own way of being in the world and be celebrated for the way that they
By
live their
gooning.
lives? That's facts.
Bye.
Facts, no printer, Limbard. Goon as hard as you can. Know what
There are
gooning
many
means. I'm an old
cultural
man.
practices that cultures around the world do that some cultures
What is
find.
You ever seen the
really-
Goon He's low-key right, though.
Okay, yeah,
Is
yeah.
it like living
don't-
like a
don't-
goonie?
No.
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 I don't know.
No.
Don't care.
You don't ask. I'll tell you guys later.
I'll tell you when you're older.
Yeah.
Goon
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 Now I
cave.
feel young again.
I'm excusing
So
myself.
true.
I'll excuse myself.
Maybe Snoosh will
Ah,
come back in.
dear. There are many around
So
the
I-
I'm gonna have
world.
to come back in a moment.
Cultures
My-
have many
shutting down.
practices that they